In this video, I wanted to go over the plans made by Batman and other members of the Bat family on potential and possible ways of taking down the Justice League. Before I begin, if you enjoy this type of content, make sure to like and subscribe. The first is Superman. Being Kryptonian, the most obvious weakness is kryptonite. While green is the standard, there also exists a variety of different colors with a variety of different effects. However, kryptonite in itself is very limited on Earth, as such, sourcing it is probably the most difficult. The second is ionizing radiation, which is trapping Superman in a room filled with ionizing radiation, as Superman's powers comes from the sun's rays, which is non-ionizing radiation, potentially stripping him of his powers, as ionizing radiation removes electrons from atoms and molecules of material, including air, water, and living tissue. The third is magic, as he has no particular defense against it. Fourth is sensory overload, as he has extremely acute senses. It can be overtaxed to the point of pain, like hypersonic blasts or flashbangs. Superman is also not immune to being damaged by nuclear explosions and can cause a lot of damage to him. Lead, which his vision cannot see through, making him vulnerable. Psionic attacks, as all Kryptonians have naturally poor defenses against psychic and telekinetic attacks. High-pitched frequency, which goes back to the sensory overload. Number 2, Wonder Woman. She is an Amazonian blessed by the gods with a variety of powers, so Batman has devised nanites, which can be injected into her body, leaving Wonder Woman trapped in a virtual reality battle against an opponent that she cannot defeat, and is her equal in every way. Her refusal to surrender under any circumstance could cause her to tire out and potentially die of exhaustion. This may indicate that, unlike Superman, she does have a limit in terms of endurance at least, which makes sense as Superman's powers come from the sun, so as long as he's exposed, he's essentially always charged. Another option could be using her chivalrous nature by taking maybe hostages, but she is quite a fast opponent as she is basically an S-class superhero, so the nanites are probably the best option. Number 3, the Flash. One of the fastest beings on Earth, so it's extremely difficult to catch and subdue him while he's using his powers. So when least expected, injecting him with specified nanites that causes him to have seizures when he's at super speed, throwing him off balance, could be effective. Another could be a device that harnesses extremely cold temperatures to slow down his metabolism, making him lose his super speed. Or, as shown in the movie, putting a bomb on his wrist and doing something similar to the movie Speed, where if he drops below a certain amount of speed, the bomb goes off, and if he can't eat anything at a high enough level because he's going too fast, he'll just die of hunger or slow down and blow up. The fourth is Aquaman. The King of Atlantis gets most of his powers thanks to his Atlantean hybrid physiology. His Atlantean side allows him to breathe underwater and endure the pressures of the deep, but his human side strengthens his physiology, allowing him to stay on dry land for an elongated period of time, and is actually shown to be 20 to 50 times stronger, faster, and tougher compared to others of his race. However, just like his race, even though not as much, one of his weaknesses is dehydration. As such, Batman has devised an alternative version of the Scarecrow's fear toxin, making Aquaman hydrophobic, and so he is going to be afraid of the water, and slowly but surely becomes weaker every second that he is not in the water and drinking water, till he eventually dies of dehydration. Another option is placing him in a dry facility or area with no water in sight, which would do a similar effect as well. The fifth is the Green Lantern. The Green Lantern's ring is an extremely powerful device. However, it does have a couple of weaknesses. First one, as devised by Batman, is to, using Scarecrow's fear toxin, tricking the Green Lantern into believing he made a wrong decision and being afraid, and repeated use of said toxin will affect the ring's power, as fear is the enemy of will, where the latter is what powers said ring. Another could be twisting willpower, because the ring is basically the placebo effect on steroids. You imagine it, it makes it happen. So a post-hypnotic suggestion introduced during REM sleep could make the wearer temporarily blind, which is needed to guide the ring's power, though if explained, they can get out of it. And lastly is a yellow lantern ring that Batman has kept in his Batcave to use against the Green Lantern if needed. Sixth is the red tornado. His first weakness is an electromagnetic pulse, which can shut him down. He also has a failsafe, which if it's hit hard enough, can also shut him down. And he is susceptible for him to be mechanically reprogrammed as well as controlled, which has happened numerous times. The seventh is the Martian Manhunter. One of his noted weaknesses is fire, for which Batman has devised a nanite virus, which if introduced into John's body, would convert the outer layer of his skin into magnesium, causing him to burst into flames from the exposure to air. Similarly, anything he ingests that could be laced with magnesium carbonate, causing him to sweat out magnesium, also makes his body highly flammable, even underwater. The next superhero is Firestorm, who is a fusion of two people, Ronnie Raymond and Martin Stein, creating the superhero Firestorm. And his abilities is the power to transmute any element provided he knows the chemical formula. So one way to nullify his powers is to throw him into the Phantom Zone, where there is a lack of raw materials. Another could be to separate him from the Professor, removing the Firestorm abilities. Then there's Dr. Fate, whose power comes from the Helmet of Fate, powered by the cosmic being Nabu. Removing the helmet, of course, would reduce his powers significantly, and apparently his invulnerability does not protect him against gas-based attacks. And similar to the Lantern Rings, after long magical battles of casting powerful spells, the helmet's power would be depleted and needs to be recharged. The superhero Shazam, while extremely powerful and basically like Magic Superman, he does have a weakness, which is that his powers are based off of vocals, which is why Billy Batson, a child, is able to transform into Shazam. So by blocking his mouth, he cannot be transformed. After that, it's Hawkman, who is essentially immortal. However, as long as you find his soulmate, they are destined to die and repeat the process once again. The superhero Plastic Man, despite his goofy attitude and demeanor, is actually a quite powerful superhero as well due to his synthetic and flexible body, allowing him to stretch and bend his body in any shape imaginable. However, he also has weaknesses. One apparently is acetone and other solvents, along with high temperatures, which can temporarily immobilize him, which will allow you to then freeze him and store him in cold storage indefinitely. And in the Prime Earth version, he seems to also be susceptible to electricity, despite having a rubber-like body. The next couple of superheroes that I'm going to mention aren't as super strong or have fast regeneration or whatever else, so incapacitating them like via broken bones or loss of limbs would significantly weaken them. But that's an obvious answer, and so I'm gonna go more specific. First, of course, is Batman, and despite his plot armor, one of his weaknesses is of course his parents, and bringing it up can distract him, as well as taking hostages, such as innocent people or direct family members, and of course remembering that Batman, despite all his plot armor, is still human, so he can get tired very easily, relatively speaking to like Superman. Another option could be to take away his money, as the Wayne fortune is what lets him be Batman, as shown where Joker steals the Wayne fortune for the Black Canary, tear gassed so that she cannot scream, or playing a recording of her scream in the same intensity to cancel the noise out. For Zatanna, she needs to be able to read and speak in order to focus her spells. As such, incapacitating her throat makes her magic useless, as well as the magic of other more powerful beings like gods are able to restrict her as well. As for Booster Gold, his future tech, while more advanced, can still be affected by electromagnetic pulse to disable it, making him fully vulnerable to physical attack. And lastly, Vixen, where removing her magic totem takes away access to her powers. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe, and hit the join button for $2.99 a month to support the channel.